We got breaking news again, the NCAA and this settlement that's being released. The DOJ has released an 11-page statement basically overviewing their displeasure with the salary cap, NIL, and then obviously how this affects Title IX. So very interesting stuff as we continue to break news on this settlement and how it affects high school football recruiting.
You're listening to the Football Scholarship Podcast, the playbook for parents and athletes who want to secure the best football scholarships possible. From securing a D1 football scholarship in the SEC at Ole Miss at just £5,700, myself, to helping 83% of the athletes I mentor achieve football scholarship offers and 42% going Division I. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me and my co-host Brian Overton, who has 15 years of D1 college football recruiting experience, as we interview top experts, successful athletes, and discuss current recruiting trends. Together, we'll help you navigate the recruiting process so you too can achieve your dream of running out of that tunnel in front of 100,000 screaming fans.
Obviously, this is the Football Scholarship Podcast, where we talk about high school, for families, parents, and athletes trying to earn scholarships. But this matters. The way that college football, this settlement is huge. The portal, extra years of eligibility. Now we're talking about salary caps. This matters, right? And so we try to bring this to you, what's going on, the latest news, and how it affects high school football recruiting. So, Brian, I'm going to open it up right to you, man. Excuse me. And obviously, joining me today is our co-host, Brian Overton, our head coach here at Next Play, who has 15 years Division I recruiting experience. So I like to pick his brain on these a little bit too, because I know a lot of people, that are active college coaches at the Division I, Division II level, but Brian knows way more than I do. So I pick his brain a little bit to get what he's hearing in the coaching space and industry as well. But Brian, what are your thoughts on this? Just initially, right off the gate.
Yeah, the big topic in there when I read, obviously I haven't read all 11 pages, but I did, read the article, that came out that hit the key points. And, the biggest thing that I took from it, which I think everybody in the business knew was coming down the pipe at some point, whether it came from the DOJ bringing it up or, the NCAA or whoever it was, especially with the revenue sharing piece on the horizon, that the schools will now, give the players a portion of that, is they want to make sure it's distributed evenly throughout the athletic department, was where Title IX is coming into play, so that, obviously football revenue sharing is going to be massively higher than obviously any other, sport when it comes to TV contracts and things like that. So I think they want to make sure that, the entire athletic department at every school benefits from, from that, and not just football, which will then, I believe the reason they're putting that in there as a topic and as a talking point is because you already have for the better part of college football, you have the have and the have-nots right now in the NIL space with no revenue sharing when it comes to dollars that they are able to spend, on their roster. So now if you do not put some kind of guardrails on the revenue sharing where it has to be dispersed evenly throughout the sports, you will then have, when it comes to college football, you would then have the haves that already have a ton of NIL money, where if they can keep a good portion of now the revenue sharing, now the money that they can spend on their roster just gets astronomical. Mm-hmm. Whereas if they have to spread it across the whole athletic department, whether it's on a percentage basis or, probably very similar to how the scholarships are allotted or the sports teams are allotted by Title IX. Now it at least kind of puts some guardrails on that, especially by conference, so then it's going to boil down to how many, actual sports each school has to spread it across. And every school is different. Some have much more than others. Some have very little. So But that was the biggest thing I took away from it. And also them giving the answers to the test of the players unionizing. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, there is no player union.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but they mentioned in there that the antitrust laws can kick in if you unionize.
Oh,
So now I think really smart players somewhere are gonna try to find a way to unionize the players, much like the NFL, so the antitrust laws can kick in and they can negotiate.
yeah, which would be crazy on top of that. I mean, look, there's a lot to unpack here. So let's simplify this a little bit first. Like, we have the revenue sharing, right? And then we have NIL, right? Like, these are two separate things.
Yep.
And I think we got to be clear on that. Let's talk about the revenue sharing, right? So the revenue sharing is what they're wanting. They can't put a cap on the NIL. Like, you can't cap. That's what one of the things that DOJ is saying is you can't cap the NIL, because any major business can go to a player and say, we want to pay you a crap ton of money or whatever they want to pay them to do a commercial for them, right? Like, that's the purpose of it. So you can, like, unless I'm missing something, you can't cap that. Now, what you can cap is the salary cap. Like, they're going to be paying the players. I think, what is it? Is it 20 million, 22 million? I think they have to disperse across the roster.
Well, it depends on the school right now.
It depends on the school. Okay. But what I'm saying is they're trying to put a cap in place, correct?
Yeah, you can put a number on the collective, I think. That's strict, because the collective is strictly pay for play. So I think you can put a cap on that. But I agree with you that you won't be able to cap the true name and likeness piece.
Yeah, you can, correct. But how would you put a cap on the collective? I understand.
Because because it's just pay for play. It's not a company or anything signing a contract with them. It is strictly a salary.
But the collective is providing benefits to the businesses. For example, those businesses can put sponsors up. Those businesses can interact with the players in certain ways. Those businesses can get benefits from those players for donating to the collective.
Right, but they don't have a deal directly with the business. The player does not.
Yeah, so business. So at the end,
donors just dump into a pool of money.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've done it.
Yeah. So they don't have a contract with a player, is what I'm saying. Which is true NIL, which is true name, image, and likeness. I just don't think they're going to view like the pool of collective money. I don't think they're going to view as the same as the car dealership deal with the player, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just felt like the collectives are just organized for the players so they could do deals with businesses. If they were smart, they would set it up that way. You know what I'm saying?
I think that was the thought, and the only reason I say that, because I've been on the other side of it, where I know for a fact we had players that had no deal with any company that were making money to play.
Totally. No, I get it.
So that's what I'm saying.
So if they were to put that in place, that's all these NILs have to, all these collectives have to do is just organize, is just reorganize what they're doing. Instead of a pool of money, they're just going to say, the XYZ business, XYZ, you're going to, share money with this player, and this player has to do, 5 posts on social and a video or something like that. Right. So
and the problem with that is it fixes nothing. That model fixes nothing, because you'll still have the haves and the have-nots.
All right, when you're talking about the Title IX?
No, I'm talking about NIL, because if NIL is treated that way, like if the collective money and the NIL money, if they decide to do it the way you're talking about doing it, and they find a way to get a kid at least, one deal or whatever, so it's all looked at the same, you're still going to have one. Now you're going to have one team with, 35 million this year, and you're going to have another team that has 15 million.
Well, that's right.
They won't change
it. Look at Ohio State, $20 million roster, right?
Well spent.
Right. So my thoughts are, okay, you're still going to have teams with more, but there's no way you can cap that. The only thing that they can cap is what the school is paying the players, right? And that's what, like, if you look at what Nick Saban is like, he's a big fan of salary caps. Like, you can cap the schools. I just don't see how you can. You tell me if it's ever going to be possible to cap the collectives. I just feel like it's not, because
Well, here's the problem. Here's you talking about. When you say the schools? Are you talking about the revenue
yeah,
share?
you can cap that.
Um, yeah, but I think that's kind of like I think that's kind of where they're trying to go with. I think Title IX does that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to be your cap right there. Because depending on the number of sports, they're going to say,
First of
okay,
all,
football gets this
the
percentage of.
Title IX,
You see what
yeah.
I'm saying?
So the Title IX, in my opinion, the Title IX, like, football's going to have to separate from the other sports. There's zero chance that
That'd be really hard in court.
there's just no other way to do it. There's no way they're going to be able to disperse the money evenly. And quite frankly, like, I mean, it's a free market. Like, football is what drives the revenue. Why would, you know, I love all sports.
What
I just feel like paying somebody who doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like that, I don't know. I don't know about that. Doesn't make sense.
having been in it, it'll be a hard sell, and they're really doing it. It's essentially happening right now, right? Because think about it. And you can use whatever team in the top of any, and you kind of got to use Power Four leagues, right? Because they have the biggest TV contracts. But even if you're not, say you're a G5 school or whatever, and you're getting whatever revenue you're getting from your TV contract, the reality of it is they're already doing that now because they're having to take that money right now just to fund the other sports because none of those other sports are profitable anywhere. So you have to have the revenue right now even to fund the other sports. You know what I mean? So, with guys I've talked to, especially when I went over to the convention a couple of weeks ago, that's what a lot of their ADs are saying. Well, I mean, we're already doing it now. It's not going to hurt us because, like, we're using football revenue money now to fund all those other Olympic sports
Yeah, but
anyway.
fund them.
We'll just
Not
tack on whatever
equally.
they tell us to tack on to the
Yeah, but
rest of
not
it.
equally pay the play.
Uh,
Yeah, but not equally pay the players. That's way different.
it's the same concept. It's the same concept,
But
though.
where,
They're
let's just
taking
say,
one pool of
let's
money
just say the
to spread it across every sport.
okay.
It's the same
Yeah, but
concept.
I see. But
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. Is the DOJ,
Yeah.
are they trying to cap the collectives in the NIL or the rev share or both?
I think they didn't come right out and say which one or both or anything like that. I just think they're trying to get as level a playing field as they can with the money you can spend on your roster,
Because
however
they
you
want
get to
Ohio
that point.
State spending 20K and Ole Miss spending 20K, and basically all the Power Four programs spending the same amount of money on their roster.
I don't think they want. I mean, I don't know that they'll be able to get that in place, but yes, I think they want to get it to a point where it makes sense. Where, like I said, it's just not a huge gap in there. You know what I mean? At least they can say, all right, we've got some kind of guardrails on it, and if this school goes out fundraises the other, then so be it. You know what I mean? But at least we've got some kind of guardrails
What would those
somewhere in there. You know
guardrails
what I mean? Or
be
we try.
if one school can go fundraise more than the other?
People smarter than me gonna have to figure that out. I have no idea because it's such a mess right now. Like that's what I'm saying. This is all the stuff they should have thought of before they let the cat out of the bag. That cat's really hard to catch, man. I'm telling you. I mean, I don't know that there is a right answer. I mean, we've thrown around two or three things right now, and some of it makes sense here, but it doesn't make sense here. And then you're going to have a lot of opinions in the room, and people are going to be one side of it and the other. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
Here's
And
my solution to the problem is you have to get rid of the collectives and you rev share from the school. And there's a salary cap for every Power 4 program, for every G5 program. They got to be different, obviously. And instead of the collective, the players have agents and they can negotiate their own NIL business deals. And or
Now that
the NCAA comes out with a marketplace, right? Where you could then, if you're a business, go through that marketplace to a player and then do a deal with that particular player. So it's not based on the school, it's based on the player. Because then
so it's funny you said that, because
that deal has nothing to do with that player going to a specific school.
funny you said that, because when the collectives, and I was right in the middle of it when collectives were even born, right? In the best conference in America, I was there. And that is what those organizations, not the fundraising arm, but that is what those people that were working at those were originally designed to do. They were designed to be people in the athletic department that the kids and their agents could work through, to be the middleman to help them link them up with businesses and true NIL deals, to make sure they were doing it right. You know what I mean? And by the rules and stuff like that, for it to be true NIL before it became a whole pay for play thing. So that is an avenue that they could take, in that, hey, you get X amount of revenue dollars, and the only thing the collective can do can help you find deals, bargain deals with your agent, with businesses or companies and whatever the case may be, and keep it true NIL like it was originally designed to do. That was the problem. They got so far away of what it was originally designed to do, it just became full on pay for play. So that is an option. That is an option.
To me, that's the only option. There is a really cool app, actually. That was the name of that app. There's a really cool app, but the way it works is throughout the season, you can pay the players, pick any player you want. And at the end of the year, if that player stays at the school, they get all the money. If they transfer and go somewhere else, they lose all the money. I was like, oh, that's pretty. So like, it basically protects you as a fan of paying the players, for playing well, doing a good job, what have you.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that model. I've heard that model came up when when they first started being able to earn NIL and things like that. That model came up heavily, like in the team store, like when they buy their jersey or, do all that stuff, that they put all that stuff like in a trust or something, throughout their career. And if they end up finishing their career there, they get all the money at their end of their career, and whatever. So I've heard that on like merchandise sales and things like that. So there is a model out there for that, just depending on what exactly they got the funds off of. Was it jersey sales or whatever it may be? Yeah. But I have heard that.
Why do you think it's hard for football to separate? You said, oh, that's going to be really hard.
It's hard for why it's hard for what?
Football to separate.
Only because somebody that knows the business knows that those other sports can't survive. Football pays the bills. There are no other sports without football.
Yeah. Really? All sports though? Like
Olympic sports, a lot of them don't even charge admission.
Baseball, those sports. I mean,
very few of them make money. Really? Very few make money. Very few. The blue bloods, maybe. The rest of them are losing money because they can't put 100,000 people in their stadium. They can't.
Yeah, but it's not just ticket sales. It's sponsors. It's TV. It's
correct. But I'm talking about direct money that's made by the football program, whether it be through whatever, but also the revenue, the TV deals the TV deals at a lot of, even Power 4 schools, the TV deals fund every other program except football, and including football. It funds the whole athletic department, the TV deal.
I'm just curious.
So if football, if football breaks away, my point is the other sports cannot financially be there because football pays all their bills.
What I'm just curious if you know this. I don't know if you know this. Like, obviously, when you're at Arkansas, like, how much is like a TV deal? Do you know that? Do you know like an idea of how much?
I mean, the last few years I was there, I want to say, and I may have this number like completely wrong, um, but it's off the top of my head. So please, nobody. I mean, you can fact check me on this one because I'm totally trying to remember correctly, which is not good sometimes. But I want to say the last few years I was there, and I'm using the SEC because I was there. I believe every school got to the tune of about 40, $50 million and
And
off the
that was from
TV
what,
deal.
CBS, like,
And
because it was
no, at the time it was a combination of ESPN and them crossing over with the ABC Game of the Week, which they don't have anymore. But the SEC had the Game of the Week on the ABC in the prime time. I mean,
CBS.
in the 3:30 slot, which
CBS.
was the biggest. I mean,
Yeah.
CBS. I'm sorry, yeah, which was the biggest game, usually of the weekend. So that funds just about everybody's all of those sports. I mean, it does.
Yeah.
So now football breaks away and they keep all that money. Like you can't, I mean, your fundraising people would be pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Let's talk about high school ball recruiting. How do you feel like this impacts our guys, or could potentially
I
impact
mean,
our
I
guys?
just, yeah, I mean, it probably doesn't impact them directly like before they get there, but when they choose a school, it can definitely impact them, obviously, just financially, either negatively or positively. You know what I mean? Depending on what kind of rules and guardrails they end up coming up with, that's how it's going to impact them. But if you're a high level recruit, which is some of our guys, as far as like if you're in the Power Four space where nobody wants to talk about it, but there are NIL conversations long before you sign there. That will affect some of those players and the money and deals they're offered, out of high school. And again, I keep referencing, Ohio State and some of the stuff we're doing. But, Jeremiah Smith caught 15 touchdowns this year as a freshman. I mean, he wasn't exactly cheap. You know
I
what I mean?
wonder, what do you think his NIL value is going to be this offseason? It's crazy, dude. True freshman.
Oh, it'll be 2+ million.
Yeah. But Ohio State
It'll be 2+ million.
pays it no problem. He ain't going nowhere. He's not going anywhere.
Nah, he won't even get out of the building. Yeah,
No. He's
no
the
chance.
best true
But
freshman receiver of all time. I don't think it's even close.
he's really good. So, I mean, that's how I think it can affect, the really high level guys that you're talking about, having conversations about deals, really early, like before they ever get to the school. I think that can affect it.
Yeah. So here's
The other guys in effect, I think, once they
Yeah.
get there.
So let's talk about that. So the affecting of the players specifically, for you listening, like two things to keep in mind. One, when you're having these conversations with coaches, it's really important that you get really clear on the two paths that you can make money. The collective, we'll call that the NIL, and then also rev share. And when you're having these conversations, it's really easy. I always say this: coaches are the best salespeople, right? And so they're really good at kind of just like fluffing and saying certain things, and then it's easy for you to be like, "Oh, okay," and kind of walk away and still not really have an answer, right? You feel like you got an answer, but you actually didn't get an answer. I don't know if there's there's coach training on that, Brian, but like every coach is trained on the ability for you to feel like they gave you an answer without them actually giving you an answer. It's pretty wild, actually, how good they are at that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's wild. But it's to get clear, like clear on the NIL collective, and then clear on what the rev share will look like. And I think if you can really get clear on those with coaches, it's going to help you, and you're going to feel much more confident going into the situation. Anything you want to add to that, Brian?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, especially when it comes down to talking numbers, and things like that. And obviously, we've done some podcasts on negotiating numbers, and that's more for scholarships we're talking about. But same thing here, if you're trying to get information on numbers that they'll be able to offer you or willing to offer you and things like that, just keep in mind, like I said, they're just like I said on the other topic on scholarships, they're always trying to get the best player for the cheapest price. That's their job. So keep that in mind. But also, like Richie said, they're going to be as vague as possible when necessary, so, asking, very pointed questions and knowing what those questions are is important, when you're having conversations with those guys. Cause I mean, he's right. I mean, and I was one of them. That's just kind of how you got to play the game sometimes when you're recruiting that many kids, I mean, you're obviously not telling them all the same thing. So, that's a real thing.
And if you want to, listen to the podcast we did on negotiation. I think it was the last podcast, and you could just go to the last episode. I'd highly recommend watching that as well. Well, listen, Brian, really appreciate you being here. Anything else you want to share with our listeners today before we jump off?
No, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it's going to be, I don't know that they'll get it figured out anytime soon just because there's so many moving parts. So this will be more of a, wait and see, stay tuned type situation.
Yep. And we'll continue to bring you the latest news as it gets released on this podcast. So if you want to stay up to speed on the NCAA, this whole settlement, all the changes with the portal and NIL and revenue sharing, and everything football scholarship related for high school football players and parents, this is the podcast for you. So make sure wherever you listen to your podcast that you subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you continue to watch them. And we do their YouTube videos and evaluations every single week as well. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Scholarship Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And for more free resources, or if you're interested in working with us, visit gonextplay.com. Until next time.